All the Bright Places, written by Jennifer Niven and published in 2015, is a novel that has won many literary awards around the world, including the Italian Mare di Libri Award in 2016 and the Goodreads Choice Award in 2015. It was named Best Book of the Year by Time Magazine, The Guardian, Publishers Weekly, New York Public Library, and others, and was in the next first book for children for the winter of 2014-2015. In addition to writing novels, the author has worked as a screenwriter and journalist for the New York Times. Her books have been translated into more than 75 languages. The author says that at first glance her books seem different, but they all share the same theme. They tell stories about ordinary people doing extraordinary things. All the Bright Places is set in Indiana. It tells the story of two teenagers, Theodore Finch and Violet Markey, who met in a rather peculiar circumstance at school. The film inspired by this book, co-written by Jennifer Niven herself, is a drama and sentimental genre. It's currently streaming on Netflix, and the actors chosen to play the main roles are Elle Fanning and Justice Smith. The book and the film follow the same story, the story of the struggle for survival and the will to cope. Violet tries to find meaning in her life after the loss of her sister, while Finch is unable to live peacefully because of his distant mother and his bad relationship with his abusive father, who no longer lives with them. The center of the plot is the relationship that slowly builds between the two characters who, forced to spend time together for a class project involving the appreciation of Indiana's landscapes, begin to grow closer and closer, despite Violet's initial hesitancy. The discovery of Indiana is only a small part of the exploration that Finch and Violet undertake. They will discover their feelings and their fears, they will explore their pain, and they will try to draw strength from each other. As Finch says, the two go where the road takes them, letting life surprise them. As time passes, Finch manages to be himself, but at the very best, as Violet begins to open to life, he begins to lose himself. Violet and Finch establish a different, almost unique relationship. They both realize they need each other more than they could ever imagine. There is much more behind the relationship. Violet is trying to grieve for the most important person of her life. Finch struggles with depression, schizophrenia, and is angry issues. Finch seems to suspect that he has a bipolar disorder, but refuses to get help. He therefore alternates between periods of time when he's present and periods of time when nobody hears from him, because, as he claims, he sometimes needs to do things that remind him that he is in control. His friends are used to it. By now, when it happens, they no longer worry. Violet is the only one who worries. She would like to help him, but while she finds the strength to live, Finch, who only gained that strength thanks to Violet, begins to lose it. The more hidden connotation of Finch's disorders are more easily identifiable when reading the book, as the descriptions are more detailed than in the film, in which they would be more difficult to portray. The plot of the film is the same as the one of the book, but the book may seem more complete to us. The exploration that the author takes us on in Finch's mind through his thoughts, which open the book and accompany us until they fade away in the finale, is certainly deeper. It is easier to fully understand the psychosis of Finch, who is constantly struggling to survive and maintain control. While the book perfectly describes the attitudes of the two characters, in the film they are masked so as not to burden the viewers, as if to represent the society in which we live in which the subject of disorders of the mind is dealt with in a superficial way. One of the book's themes is, in fact, mental health. Addressing this topic helps to overcome the prejudices that still characterize our society today. Dealing with such a sensitive topic can help many people feel less alone and gain the courage to ask for help without shame. The author's choice is also important for people who are next to someone suffering from a mental disorder. In this way, they can try to put themselves in their shoes and try very hard to help them and to be as close to them as possible, without ever making them feel wrong or alone. An equally important theme is grief. It is presented from the very first pages of the book, in which poor Violet's grief for the loss of her much-loved sister Eleanor is described, of whom she is left with nothing more than an empty bedroom and a pair of eyeglasses that she wears even though she doesn't need them, in order to feel close to her. She feels a pain that leads her to isolate herself and shut herself away. Only thanks to Finch she will be able to live again. Love is another theme. As Violet and Finch's acquaintanceship progresses, he realizes that he has feelings for her, who begins to heal and open up to him as time goes by. Violet is one of the reasons why Finch wants to stay awake and doesn't want to give up. However, the control, confidence, and balance that Violet gives to Finch are only apparent, even though their love story is full of sincere feeling and respect for each other. At first, it is believed that the book is only intended for a young target group. Instead, I believe it is mainly for adults. It is important to make every age group aware of the subject of mental disorders, which are real illnesses to be treated and not whims. Those who have teenage children know very well that adolescence is a tough time. This is why it is essential to be open to dialogue without passing judgment and with a willingness to listen. This book is profound, touching, moving, and educational. Both works have considerable artistic value. I respect the choice of the adapters and Jennifer Niven herself to make the film a little less deep than the book. It was probably lightened because Netflix's main target audience for this film is young people, and to show precisely all the details would have been too heart-wrenching. Jennifer Niven's very touching story gave her the inspiration to write this book. She sadly lost someone she was in love with to suicide. Jennifer is actively involved in suicide prevention, and this novel fully demonstrates it. Finch was a dreamer. He daydreamed and wondered if a perfect day existed. He spent his whole life searching for it and finally found it with Violet. The book and the film tell the story of how mental health is a thin thread that holds a person together, and that only by finding ourselves we can open up to a new love like Violet and Finch. With Finch, we realize there are bright places even in the darkest places. And if those places are hard to find, we should rely on ourselves, because we are full of light more than we expect.